So keep in mind that those who oppress the righteous are changing my voice. Here we see in Luke that John the Baptist addressed not just one person, but the crowds coming toward him. And he says, "You brood of vipers," calling them a name, doing something that is a form of retaliation for their sins, which have affected him too and his mental state. And we see that Christ, as a character in the story, says, "I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." And in a different place in the Bible, it says to bring fire or to set fire to the earth. We see that Stephen the martyr in Acts calls the Jews names. When he thinks about how they crucified Christ, he took it personally, he took it to heart, and he does a form of retaliation. So where you and everyone goes wrong has to do with your description. You make it seem like God's Spirit doesn't cause one to retaliate. It does. David was retaliating against Goliath for challenging the Jews, and at the time in the story, at that time the Jews there in that story were in the right. So he, in the Spirit of God, fires back. One of the most obvious signs that someone is in the Spirit of God is when they're in the divine order and they're retaliating for injustice in a very sort of monotheistic martial art sort of way. We see in the movie, Star Wars, for example, we see where Yoda fires back at the Emperor, and we see that Obi-Wan Kenobi, and their characters in that movie were very much like, they're like Buddhists, like very calm people. So we see time and time again that part of the fruits of righteous people, okay, in popular culture, in the Bible, what have you, is that they fire back. Okay, the fire of God in the heart and firing back at the wicked. We see that when Christ, as a character in the story, comes back in Revelation, people are said to be gathered into the clouds with him, and they're striking the enemies of God together. Is that living in peace with them? No. When one truly has the Spirit of God, God will direct them to clash with them. That's why all these early Christian martyrs were martyred. Because Christians in popular culture and history, which is also a story, mind you, okay, they chastised the wicked. They said, "Hey, don't marry that person. He's wicked." What's worse, calling someone a name or telling your friend not to marry someone because they're a pagan who doesn't love God with all their heart. So in so many ways, we see that people are being chastised all throughout history by people who have the moral high ground. So who's right? The masses of righteous people, or the people who are saying the corporate propaganda that you are propounding?